All right. Good afternoon, you guys. Welcome back to Spillin' It.
Welcome.
We, of course, got Ethan and we have Melissa.
Hello.
Our
Welcome, Melissa.
guest
you.
today. Yeah, we're so happy to have you. We are going to kind of start. We can just get right into it.
Okay. So I was married for 13 years and then I got a divorce. My girls were in, I don't know, like elementary-ish ages.
Yeah.
I didn't date much. Obviously, we didn't have like online dating back in the,
Yeah.
olden days.
Yeah.
Got married when I was 22.
Did you? Okay,
yeah,
you
so
were young.
We were young. We
Yeah.
didn't even have like full-on cell phones yet. I was
Yep.
still rocking the pager. So
Yeah.
like didn't know, what a narcissist was, didn't know what gaslighting meant, didn't know what like ghosting was. So I was just thrown into this pool of plethora of men, and you think everybody's got good intentions because
Yep.
that's what you're going into.
Yeah.
So fast forward a couple months after my divorce, I met this gentleman on a dating website and, met and had really great conversation. He seemed really nice.
Was he the first man you met on the app?
No.
You met a couple before
Right.
him?
Just
Okay.
a couple before him.
Yeah.
But this was one that I was like, oh, this one might be different,
Yeah.
right? In a positive way. And so I, checked the Minnesota court records to make sure he didn't have anything. He
Yep.
just had the normal speeding tickets like everybody else has. And so we started to date and he seemed nice. I was in, my marriage ended due to alcoholism. So
Okay.
drinking was not something I was looking to have a
Yeah.
partner that was a heavy drinker,
Okay.
Yep.
whatever, a couple cocktails, that's fine. So he kind of was in that space. I'm a Christian believer
Mhm.
and he had the same beliefs and went to church and grew up in the church, seemed to have a great family,
Yeah.
was nice. My girls met him. Everything seemed like weirdly like it was falling into place. And I was like, well, maybe this is like my person.
Yeah.
And
It,
you kind of
like, this
get
is it.
excited.
My
Yeah.
Prince
And
Charming.
yeah, exactly.
Checked all the boxes.
Yeah, checked
Yeah.
all the boxes
Yeah.
that I thought that I needed,
Yep.
right? I didn't know what boundaries were really and things like that. So we, after 6 months of dating, decided to get a place here together that just made sense for us because we talked about future stuff. We
Yeah.
talked about what it looked like. He had 2 girls. I had 2 girls. My girls were older than his. And we blended so well. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was friends with his baby mamas. They enjoyed our time together. He played softball. So we were at the softball fields all the time with everybody. And
Yeah.
our kids got along. Like,
Did they all stay, like your 2 girls and his 2 girls, you all stayed in the same house?
so I have my girls. I got full physical custody. So
Okay.
they were at the time still going to their dad's every other weekend.
Okay.
And so he had his kids every other weekend, but they were opposite weekends to make
Got
it
it.
even more confusing.
Yeah.
So
Yes, got it. Yep.
one was with us when I had my girls, and then his younger one was by herself.
Okay.
So
Okay.
so we always had kids every weekend.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
So he decided to the area that we moved into, he took a job as a FIED teacher. My girls ended up going to that same school. And so everybody kind of knew us. And so we were together a total of 2.5 years. I would say like the last 5 months, I felt like maybe he was cheating on me. Like maybe.
Why did you feel like that?
Well,
Good question.
things happened in the bedroom. Just
Oh, okay.
different things that I'm like, wait a minute. Like
Like that was different.
that
This
was
is new.
different.
Yeah.
Or I'm like, why do you feel this now?
Yeah.
And then, or not wanting to have
Got it.
relations with me, which
Yeah,
was
yeah.
unusual.
okay.
And then I saw like a picture of a woman on his phone when he went to the bathroom. I'm not a snoop, but if you're going to leave your phone out and
Yeah.
I see
Yeah.
a googly heart emoji like pop up with a woman's face, I questioned him
Yeah.
and he got very like, why would you think that I would ever cheat on you, Melissa? I love you so much. This is what that my ex did to me. And I would have to prove to her that I was at church by giving her pamphlets from that service. And she just never trusted me. And I thought you trusted me. And I'm like, I just asked a question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just flipped it
Right?
around.
Yeah.
I just asked a question. And so prior to that, I didn't see red flags.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But that was probably a first seed because of other things that I had noticed previous with like our whatever.
Right.
So we were like driving, and he had kept bringing this up, like, oh, they think there's something wrong with my phone, and I brought it to this IT guy at
What
this
was
school.
his reasoning with this girl?
We were just
He
friends.
never got there? Or
We were just friends
just
at
friends?
school, and and because his phone crashed, he couldn't bring it back up, and it wasn't there. And so I'm like, I know what I saw. I'm not crazy.
Oh, so he was
right?
making you, so he brought it back and was like, I don't know, it was like a glitch with my phone.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
How
Okay.
ironic
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
his phone would just
Yeah.
crash.
But
Like,
his-
it's
but his
weird.
phone did
Women
crash.
keep popping up on
I
my
know,
phone.
but his phone
Yes.
did, because I grabbed it and it shut off, and I'm like, what the heck?
Oh,
Weird.
weird.
Yeah, so it was weird, and
Okay.
in my intuition, it
Yes.
wasn't the time
Your
yet.
gut.
It
Yep.
wasn't time yet. I still needed to
Yeah.
go through the things. And so
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's weird. So he brought it up. He's like, I had my IT person. He's like, my phone's just on the fritz. He's like, I want you to know how much I love you. And I laugh at this because it's so ridiculous. You're the love of my life. I love you so much. I want you to know that no matter if you see me out in public with another woman, and he weirdly said, if I'm at a park on a bench and you see me with another woman, I don't want you to question that I'm cheating on you. And in my head, I'm like,
You're like, that's a very specific
that's
scenario.
Wait a second.
What benches do we have in town that you're
Right.
going to?
What
First of all,
park are you going to? Just if I happen to be walking
should
by?
I be going there?
Right.
And I was like, this
What did you
dick
say?
it nothing.
Okay.
So I'm like, he is grooming me. I knew what that word meant. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I'm not a naive person anyways, but I'm like, he is trying. And I didn't know what that was. I didn't know that that's what gaslighting was at
Okay.
that point still.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm like, he's just trying to make me not question him. And
Yeah.
so that was like a big red flag. And I remember I'm like, ugh, I'm a faithful person, and I was on my way to work, and I'm like, Lord, here's the thing, like free will, right? Cool.
Yep.
But if this isn't the person for me, I got my kids. Like, please throw something at me so big that he can't talk me out of.
Yeah.
And
You
I
didn't know how big of a prayer that
Yeah.
was.
Yes,
going
I
to
was-
be.
and that's
literally
danger
just gonna
of
say that.
praying, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes those big bold prayers were
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, no,
Careful what you ask
I
for.
didn't mean like this. But I said it, and I just was like, here it is. Okay,
Yeah.
this is. I guess I got to just be on watch.
Yep.
A few weeks later, he called me at work. He's like, hey, I just left my job. And I'm like, what do you mean you left your job? He's like, well, so he's like, there was a misunderstanding between the principal and some parents. And so I decided to leave. And I'm like, well, we'll talk about it more when I get home.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, what was the misunderstanding? He's like, some parents came to the school, was complaining about how I ran my classroom because I let, the students just kind of leave class, and some of them were going into the locker rooms together. And I was like the boys and girls, like
Okay.
co-ed classes.
Yep.
I'm like, that's really strange.
Yeah, that is really strange.
I'm like, and I said to him, did you do anything that would have been portrayed as something inappropriate with a student since he taught high school, or they could have skewed it as that? And he said no. He's like, plus, he's like, Melissa, if I would have done something like that, why would the school continue to pay me through the end of the year? Again,
Mm.
I'm questioning,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
but in my head, why would they?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
if
Makes
you have a
sense.
teacher that's like inappropriately touching a minor, why in the world would you
Continue. Pay
continue?
them.
And this was in October.
Yeah.
So it's not like it was,
Beginning of school,
Right.
basically.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, so you had months left.
Still a lot of pain.
Mm,
So
yeah.
I just was like, oh, that's so weird. But okay. And the girl started to hear rumors about inappropriateness. And I was like, until the cops show up at my door, I gotta just believe them, because I'm like, I didn't ever see anything inappropriate with my girls at my house.
Yeah.
And I full out asked them, because I think as a single parent, single parent or not, if you have kids, you should be asking them that it is okay.
Yes.
And that you're going to believe them, right? That's
Yes.
a huge thing.
Absolutely.
We have those conversations all the time.
Yep.
Like, especially like this is when they were young, like
Yeah.
good touching, bad
Yeah.
touching, if any, like never feel bad for saying something.
Never.
Yep.
Because
And-
that's what happens. Like they get scared
Exactly.
and they're like, I'm in trouble.
Yeah. And they
So-
don't want to get anybody else in trouble because
Yeah.
Right.
they usually look up to this person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right?
absolutely. Yep.
So I was a coworker's birthday. I'm sitting at work. We're having ice cream cake for breakfast.
Oh,
Like
delicious.
the best day.
The
And
best
I'm
day.
eating. And I got a phone call from a private number on my cell phone. I'm like, that's weird. I usually don't answer stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to answer it.
Uh,
And they were like, is this Melissa? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I'm detective so-and-so from this police department.
Yeah.
And I stopped him and I just said, are my girls okay?
Yeah.
And he's like, yes. And I said, okay, continue. And he's like, I need you to come to the station right away. And I knew at that moment that it was about my then boyfriend.
Yeah.
mhm.
And so I live about 20 minutes from where I work.
Okay.
And my coworkers all kind of knew what was going on with the drama and the girls hearing rumors about this person. And so I'm like, hey, I got to go to the police station. And
Yeah.
they all just were like, whatever.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah.
Do your thing.
And so I got in the car. I don't even remember getting in the car. And this is trauma, right? This is how
Yeah.
our body protects ourselves. And
Mhm.
I don't remember that 20-minute drive. I don't even remember parking. I remember walking into this tiny in our town. We have the big, scary, station, but then
Right,
they have
right.
like a little police station, which is very small in the middle of,
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
woods.
Literally in the middle of the woods.
Literally.
Literally. Yes. Yep.
And so, I got in there and I remember looking, there was a dispatch person, a woman that I had known standing, and she worked for them, and she was my youngest one's best friend. So my girls at this time were 13 and 15. So 7th and 10th grade or 8th and 10th grade. Anyways, I think that,
Yeah.
yeah, 8th and 10th.
8th and 10th. Yeah.
And so,
Sounds right.
so my youngest grew up with her daughter until we moved.
oh,
So
yeah.
I was like, hi, how are you? And she was so somber. I'm like, that doesn't bode well
Yeah,
for me.
yeah.
like, I feel like,
Like she knows something.
shit.
Yeah.
So I walk into this tiny room, and I just walk in this tiny room, and it's like in the movies, like there's no windows.
Yeah.
It was a circular table with just a couple chairs. And then he shuts the door, and he's asking me a lot about my boyfriend. How long have I known him? I'm like 2.5 years. How did I meet him? Online. Does he have kids? Yes, he's got 2 daughters. How often do we have them? And I said, like I did every other weekend. And how old are your girls? I'm like 13 and 15. I have them full time, all the time, except every other weekend. And he's pulls out this laptop, and I'm like, okay. He's like, I have to show you something. I'm like, okay.
Did you have any
No.
idea of what you were about
No.
to see, or like, no? How were you like feeling
So the
your
whole
body?
Out
time
of-
you're like, just get to it. Like, what are
Out
you?
of it.
Yeah.
I had I knew when he pulled out a laptop, I was like, I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't going to be good, but deep down inside, I knew it had something to do with him being let go. of
Yeah,
his
yeah.
job.
Okay.
But I didn't know it to the extent. And so, he flips the laptop around, and it's a picture of my shower curtain. I'm like, that's my bathroom. And I'm like,
How do you have that?
that's my bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, are you sure? I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I clean that every day. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's my shower curtain.
Yep.
And then the next picture, he's like, okay, these are frames
Okay.
of pictures that we're going to have to go through. And so the next frame was a picture of me in my sports bra, but my head is cut off. So the angle of the camera is just your torso.
Hmm.
And I'm like, well, that's me. And they're like, are you sure? I'm like, I get why you're asking me
Yeah,
that, but
right.
could you just stop?
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's me.
Yes.
That's me,
100%.
100%. Look at myself in the mirror every single day. And then it was my 15-year-old was in her sweatshirt. And I'm like, well, that's my 15-year-old. And they're like, how do you know? I'm like, again, this is the same sweatshirt that she wears to bed every single night.
Yeah.
And then he's like, well, we have to we have to show you some other pictures. And so the next frame was a picture of her with no clothes on. And I had to ID my 15-year-old by her boobs, which was like something you would never. So there's like rage and like pure shock. And he's just like, well, okay. And I said, I'm like, I don't understand. Like, and I'm like, when can I'm like, you're saying that this is on his computer? And he's like, my first words are like, how can I get rid of him? Like, when can I break up with this person?
Yeah.
As I'm here, he is blowing my phone up, blowing it up, because they had called him to come in, and they knew they called me first.
Yeah.
He knew that? Okay.
Yep. And so I cried tears. I cried so hard. There's like nothing coming out anymore. And then but they sent in my friend that was sitting, and she's like, Melissa, she's like, they told me everything before you came in. And then we talked, and I'm like, oh, great. I'm gonna have to freaking tell their dad. Like, and you know, you get divorced for a reason.
Yeah.
Right.
Thankfully, we had a fairly decent communication.
Yeah.
And I called him, and I just remember I met him, and we were divorced for a while at that point in time, and I just hugged him. I like broke down, and he's like, this is not your fault.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he's like, we'll tell the girls. And I'm like, we're gonna press charges. And I said, yeah, I agree. And so I knew. They're like, do you know anything? I said, yeah, I know exactly where that camera was angled in my bathroom. I said, he bought an alarm clock. And so they're like, are you sure? I said, 1,000%, 1,000%. That angle comes from that alarm clock. And so they're like, well, don't answer his phone calls. He is on his way here. So then I panic.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I don't want to run into him. And they're
Right.
like, you're not going to run into him. Like, I don't want to see him. And I called my mom and dad. I told my ex, I'm like, meet me at this Jimmy John's in town. I'm like, I'm going to run to the house quick since he's coming here. I'm going to get the girls his stuff, and I'm getting that damn camera.
Yeah.
And so that was
Absolutely.
the first thing that I didn't care if I didn't get anything else. We could go to Target, whatever.
Right.
But I'm getting that camera. And so I left, and I got lost in the town that I live in because my head was spinning.
Yes.
Yeah, I bet.
And I'm like, I'm telling my parents are in shock too, because he seemed like this great guy, this family guy, this believer, this great, teacher, and all the students wanted to be his friend. He was buddy with everybody.
Yeah.
And so they live like 3 hours away. They're like, we're getting a hotel room in town.
Yeah.
We're on our way. We'll tell you, we'll meet up with you.
Yeah.
And so I went to the house, and I decided to be ballsy and answer his call. And I just laid into him.
Yeah.
Good.
Like, there was a wrath inside of me.
Oh my gosh.
I don't think I said the F word the whole 2.5 years. And then I was like, F and this, F and you, F and this. And I'm like, you recorded my daughters?
Yeah.
And he's like, how could you ever think that I love you so much? How could you? And at that point in time, I'm
Wow.
like, listen here.
Over it, buddy.
not
Nothing.
gonna
And I
believe
said,
anything.
nothing you say to me is going to take the image away that I just had to see of my daughter. Like, nothing. I don't care if it was an accident. It's not.
No.
So like, nope, done. I'm
You're
like,
not even believable anymore.
Yeah.
No.
I'm like, whatever you're doing now, because I knew what he was going. I said, this happened on a Friday. I'm like, you're out of my house by Sunday.
Yep.
Yeah.
I said, if your shit is in my house, it will no longer be.
Yep.
So you have until Sunday.
Yeah.
And I said, you don't talk to me after that, because we shared. I wasn't dumb in the fact that we shared a lot of stuff. I said, after Sunday, you don't talk to me. You don't text me. I'm blocking you. I'm getting restraining order against you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we're done. And so go to the house
Yeah.
and you're like spinning. I'm like, okay, just throw as much crap as I can in the bags. We have like a little end table by the couches. And
Yeah.
I knew he always had a lot of flash drives. And something in me said, Melissa, grab those flash drives. They were family pictures of his family. So I grabbed, there was like 5 or 6. I threw them in my bag and I ran upstairs and I grabbed the camera and I'm like, or the alarm clock. And I was like, still, this can't be real.
Yeah.
It can't be.
Yeah.
And I looked on the outside of it and there was nothing. And I popped that sucker's face off. Sure as there was a little camera.
How little?
Tiny.
Oh my gosh.
And the alarm clock itself was probably only like this big. It was just one of those like digital alarm clocks that you can get wherever. You can't see it through the lens though.
Right.
Oh my gosh. So did any other cameras in your house?
So, no.
Not that you, not that
I knew.
Yeah.
So I had talked to, after the fact, because that was my biggest fear.
Yeah.
The detectives were like, when someone does this, when someone has a sexual disease in this aspect of wanting to catch people, they start small, like a camera and an alarm clock or camera and something. We did have, I'm going to step it back. We did have video recorders in the house and outside, but I had control. So the girls would come home sometimes by themselves. And so we had one that was in our living room that pointed to the front door and then outside. So he was a camera savvy person, but I was okay with all of that because I too had access to that.
Right. Yeah.
So I grabbed everything. My ex-husband and I grabbed the girls from school and we had to have a conversation.
Yeah.
We were at the Culvers.
At the
sure they're
Culvers.
like, why are you both picking us up right now?
They were like, why are you together?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And I just said, hey girls, like I found, and I had to be so truthful to them.
Yeah.
I'm like, here's the reality. This person, maybe some of the things that you're hearing at school maybe are true. I'm not really sure, but I had to find pictures of my oldest and I had to tell her it was you. And my youngest is like, is there any of me? I said, well, because we found you, Kate, my oldest, I'm like, we're pretty positive there was a slew of people on this.
Yeah.
Because that was in my house. That alarm clock was in my house for just shy of a year.
Wow.
And so they were like, what?
Yeah.
And then they saw how broken I was.
Yeah.
And they just grabbed my hand and they're like, Mom, it's not your fault. And
Ooh.
because I'm like, I'm so sorry I did this to you.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's not you. You didn't do anything. And it's just like
that's a hard thing as a mom.
I have to,
because like you would never be with him if you knew that and they know that.
Yeah.
And even your ex for saying that too. Like I don't think that like I could take somebody being like, how could you be and you like already are like
in the middle of that.
Yeah. No. And so it was
for them to at like such a they're
to
young but they get it.
Right.
Yeah. And I remember like they saw the most probably broken version of myself.
Mm-hmm.
Even with an alcoholic as their dad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My girls and I are very close. We still are. They knew the divorce was for their protection.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, you don't deserve to cry. Mom doesn't deserve to cry. Like, yes, your dad loves you.
Yeah.
We just can't continue to put ourselves in. So for them to see me completely broken, we were in the hotel. My parents had to do stuff with the girls, and they heard me crying in the bathroom, like a cry, like hard.
Yeah.
And my oldest was like, is she gonna be okay? So I told his baby mamas and they were shocked. The infidelity.
Okay.
That
I was
was-
going to ask you that. I was
when-
thinking of,
I was good friends with his baby mamas and I just wanted to do courtesy because their girls were apart. I'm 2.5 years, man.
Yeah.
They're the little one. I helped potty train. We had hair salon days when she was my little nugget. Like,
Yeah.
and they were shocked.
Yeah. Okay.
About this, not infidelity, because they had both experienced that. And I'm like, why didn't you guys tell me? And they're like, he seemed like he could be different with you. He's like, they're like, Melissa, you are so kind. You're so sweet. You're so loving. We're like, maybe he found somebody that could make him happy enough to not whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I remember telling him, I'm like, I want to press charges, but I'm like, I don't want this to negatively impact your family too.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my gosh, just do it.
Yeah,
Like,
seriously.
this is as much of importance, because I'm like, his oldest was old enough to understand things. And I'm like, this is going to be a lot of questions for her.
Yeah.
And my girls were her sister's friends. And to have her dad do something like that, I'm like, this is going to cause.
Yeah.
And they're like, just do it. And so CPA had to get involved. That's a scary thing. I'm like, I'm a good mom.
Yeah.
Like, I am a good mom. And to have.
Did they come in and ask you like a ton of questions, and they asked the kids?
Yep.
All that too. Okay.
Yep. So I did not press charges. The state of Minnesota pressed charges. I was just their client. So it really was the state of Minnesota versus this individual.
Yeah.
The girls, I remember I talked to the attorney right away. And I'm like, I don't want to go to trial. She's like, why? I said, I don't want to drag the girls into this. I don't want to have them see themselves in pictures. And so I'm like, whatever and I'm like, I don't really want to have, because I'm so Minnesota nice.
Yeah.
I don't want him to have to go to jail, but I definitely, like, I feel bad, but I definitely, it's so dumb.
But yes,
but
what a mind game.
Yeah, it's a mind game, because
he controlled you
I
so
loved
much.
him.
Yeah.
I loved him.
That he
an
made
hour
you feel
before.
bad.
Yeah,
Yes.
an hour before my whole life, Pandora's box blew up in my face.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just that, it was all the infidelity that I found out. Top of that, he was having extracurricular activities with the other female gym teacher at school, like all these things that I had a feeling I just didn't know. So he was this completely different person, and he fooled me, but not because I'm a gullible person.
Right.
He believed his lies.
Yeah.
He loved making women fall in love with him. That is his sickness.
Yeah.
Ick.
Yeah. So
is that why he got fired from the school? It was because of the teacher? Like them?
Nope.
Oh,
Nope.
okay.
So he got fired. I later found this out because my oldest played basketball with one of the girls that went forward to the school. He just dragged his hand up the side of their body, would gently press behind them when they were in. It was his, and so the parents are like, oh my gosh.
He was inappropriately touching.
It was inappropriately
Yeah.
but it was like, oh, you're just misunderstanding.
Right.
I just accidentally, or there was one of the girls, he wrote a letter of recommendation for a college, and he literally, and I found this out through the trial, he literally told that girl, if you say something, I can take my letter of recommendation away.
Wow.
Jeez.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. I'm like,
Yeah.
girls
Right.
started to come to my girls, and like we were at a local church, and just because they had like a youth group, and we didn't have a lot of youth group options around our area.
Yeah.
And one of the girls was like in 6th grade, because that's when this person started teaching, or 6th or 7th grade, and they would go to a huge, it's Valley Fair. I don't know.
Oh,
It doesn't
yeah.
matter.
Valley Fairs. Yeah.
That's fine.
So she said to my youngest, this person, their teacher, sat in, he's like, oh, I'll go in a cart with you because no one else is there.
Yeah.
And he put his hand between her legs the entire roller coaster.
Oh.
And she said, I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
So these predators, because that's what they are,
Yeah.
they're predators.
Absolutely. Yep.
They do this because they are deemed in a high level of authority. They're friends. They're my buddy. He coached.
He's the cool teacher, probably.
Yep. He coached a male dominant sport at this school as well. He was coach.
Mhm.
Yep.
and people looked up to them. And that after I found out everything and I was learning about things, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, they want somebody like me that's a likable, like you, likable personality, somebody that they can kind of manipulate, but not because you're weak.
Yeah.
Right.
Right?
Right. Absolutely.
You're an empath.
Mm-hmm.
They love that. They love, they love, because then when they slip up and, oh, maybe I did touch you. No one's going to question you because I'm with this person. Look at my beautiful people. Always are like, oh, you guys have such a beautiful blended family all the time. Mm-hmm. And so it was just a lot. I just had, back to that's because I still grossly had love for this person. It wasn't even a month since it happened. And he, even moving out, I said, everything in the house that I'm begging up. You don't get to come to my house on Monday morning. My mom is staying with me. Your parents have to come and pick up the rest of your shit because you're done now. You didn't get it all done. And I found 2 fake engagement looking rings. And I called them and I'm like, because I knew, like, you left these here on purpose. You left them in a cabinet that was completely empty except for this.
Oh my gosh.
He pretended to cry. I'm so sorry. You're still the love of my life. I can't believe my whole life is changing. Those were meant for you. I'm like, you got me 2 fake wedding, like 2 fake, ooh, every girl's dream. Like,
thanks for that.
Fake engagement rings. He asked me if I would at least try them on and send him a picture.
What?
Why?
Yeah.
Weird.
Because he is crazy.
Yeah.
He is hashtag therapy is important.
Yeah.
He is evil.
Mm-hmm.
He is an evil person in my mind, and I think in reality too. But
did he ever feel or show remorse or that he was sorry, or was he sorry he got caught and he's mad that you're breaking up with him?
Yep.
Not like
so that's the trial part. So
got
question.
it.
So his youngest, he also tried to manipulate me. His youngest, he's like, I know you love her so much. If you don't press charges, I'll allow you to be able to see her still.
Oh my gosh.
I told her mom that, and she's like, he doesn't even have full physical custody. She's like, Melissa, see her whenever you want. And I did when she was younger, and we still stay in touch and say hi and stuff. But he tried to use his kids as a maneuver because he knew
them.
And he knew I was pissed.
Yeah.
And he knew that I was not going to back down.
Yeah.
And so by God's grace and strength and the people around me, I mean, I was never afraid to tell this story, as emotional it was. Sharing traumatic things, as hard as it is sometimes, is such a freeing thing.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was talking to the attorney. I think I already said that. So she's like, he's a repeat.
Yeah.
She's like, he is going to be repetitive. She's like, we need to show him that his actions have consequences.
Yeah.
And so she's like, I'm going after him for everything. And I'm like, yeah, but still okay. But still okay.
Mm-hmm.
But then we started the trial, and the things that I found out. So he bought an alarm clock from Amazon that was motion detected. I didn't even know that.
What?
So he could turn it on, and it will only start recording every time there's motion.
Wow. Okay.
And so
and that was in your bathroom for a year.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Wow.
And so I thought, oh, maybe he just turned it on and off. Well, he did.
Yeah.
And as I'm thinking back, every time I left the room, he went on his phone. But that's a red flag for cheating anyways. But it was really, depending on who was upstairs, he would turn it on.
Yeah.
And you have to remember, like, the girls had friends over.
Well, as when you said that earlier, he had it in there for like a year. I'm like, was there I imagine there's friends.
My dad's like, fingers crossed he got me. And
here you go.
Here it is, buddy. Woo! Doing the elephant swing. You know?
Helicopter.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So we try to make light of things. But
I feel like that is very important. I'm the kind of person that, like, if I go through, like, going through something, but having to be able to laugh about it and have that little,
it's part of our coping mechanism.
Yeah, it's how it is. It's how you survive.
So telling, like, the girls is like my youngest best friend's mom, I'm like, hey, I'm like, I'm sure your son and daughter have been hearing things. And she's like, thank you. And I said, I would not. And they knew my heart that as a mom, I wouldn't have knowingly put my own daughters, let alone strangers, in that harm's way for that.
Yeah.
So he bought this alarm clock, and so going through the trial, and I fought for 2.5 years because it happened during COVID. So you want nothing to do with this person.
Yeah.
And then I had to be on Zoom calls where he would just stare at me.
Oh my gosh.
Knowing,
can I be off camera today, please?
Yeah.
Can we just?
Yeah.
But it was so important for me to show up,
Yeah.
as hard as it was. And so yeah, they found on his. So this camera you had to download the app.
Right.
And his big thing was it was in a different country. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm like,
Okay.
But you
Buddy.
downloaded the app, and you are he's a very intelligent person when it
Yeah.
comes to electronics. Like
Right.
very.
Don't play dumb with me. Like I know.
Yeah, like I know.
Yeah.
They might not know, but I
Right,
know.
yeah.
But they're gonna know. So it automatically downloaded a file to his phone. So then when he recorded, or he could take screenshots, still shots,
Mm-hmm.
it would go into the secret folder in his phone
Oh.
that would download to his computer.
Wow.
So he could control what downloaded,
Yep.
but that makes sense, right? How those pictures got on his work computer.
Yeah.
So he either missed it
Yeah.
by God's grace, because there's a reason, just like I said.
Oh, I don't think we said that. Did we say that after he was fired, that he really wanted that work computer
Yeah.
back?
Oh, I don't know, but
I don't know
he
if we
did.
said that. Yeah.
He did.
But-
He was really wanting his work computer back, because there was hours of pornography on it, pictures of girls, and then that's how they found. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that's why I was like, when I originally noticed like him talking to women, I feel like the phone died because that was not what was there was bigger things that I had to be patient and go through and wait for, because my whole goal was, I don't care if you spend a day in jail. I don't care. I don't want you to ever be a teacher ever
Right.
in your life again.
Yeah.
Ever.
Mhm.
Like, you don't get to do that. And so that was my whole focus. And so he had to do an Alford's plea, which is there's enough incriminating evidence to go to court, and you're probably going to be found guilty.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of being in the jury's hands and having a larger sentencing or probation or whatever what they decide, you can do an Alford's plea, which means you just answer yes to the questions that are asked of you by the state's attorney, my attorney.
Yeah.
So he had 3 charges. One was they were all invasion of privacy. One was a felony invasion of privacy, including minors. One was we were talking earlier, whatever the bad misdemeanor, I think gross misdemeanor, whatever the bad one is.
Yeah.
And then one was for they were both invasion of privacy, but I can't remember what the 2 categories were. But anyways, so he did have a felony charge against him. And so we were going through remember what I was talking about?
Yeah. Oh, his pleas.
Oh yeah,
in the
his plea.
court. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So because he opted for the gross, not the felony, right? We could not ask any questions that were involving minors.
Oh,
It had to just be a blanket invasion.
got it.
And so my attorney was asking him these questions. And when it got to you knowingly brought in an alarm clock with a video camera, knowingly into the bathroom to collect videos.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, well, not really. She's like,
That's what he said.
Wow. Why else do you buy an alarm clock like that?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and so this is not in person. This is still on Zoom.
Yeah.
And so she's like, let me rephrase that.
Yeah.
And she's like, you knowingly purchased this device with a secret alarm clock, purposely didn't tell Melissa,
Yeah.
and you purposely put it in the bathroom,
Yeah.
knowing that it had the capabilities of recording, because what his whole thing was, I thought I disabled that. It was in a different country. Like the instructions were in a different language, but you somehow still figured out how to download the app.
Yeah.
And you thought that you
could hide it by putting it on your work computer.
Yeah. And he thought that he disabled the recording part.
Mm-hmm.
And he just felt so embarrassed that he couldn't tell me, because they were like, why didn't you take it out? I was just so embarrassed. And I would laugh, kind of like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were too embarrassed.
You know how ridiculous you sound?
Yeah.
You're not even believable.
No.
Yeah, you're not at this point.
No.
And so he said that was not my intention. Then the judge was like, okay, let me take over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously.
And
please.
you don't want that. And he was like, let me just back up. He's like, I'm not a hunter. This was really cool. I'm not a hunter. And this, my ex-boyfriend was like, okay. He's like, but give me some knowledge about motion detecting. He's like, isn't that what hunters use
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
for their prey?
Yep.
Wow.
And I was like,
Just got goosebumps.
hell yeah.
What a good way to put it.
Yeah.
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 He's like,
For their prey.
so he's like, so you bought this camera
Mm-hmm.
knowing that it was motion detected, knowing you could control it on your phone.
Yep.
And he said, now you put that in the bathroom to record Miss Smith's 2 minor children, correct? And he had to answer yes to that. So
Oof.
he is on record answering yes. He purposely, because at this time he knows he's screwed.
Yeah.
Right.
Because the judge is going to throw him in
Right.
contempt for not doing what he's supposed to be doing.
Right.
And so even though he did not have the felony charges, he is on record saying that he intentionally did this to get the pictures and video recordings of my minor children and whoever else
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
in the house. So that was kind of like a great win. But I'm like learning stuff
Yeah.
as it's coming. Like I had no idea the capabilities and what he had. And he had, before he even went to the detective station, he tried to delete. And
I
they
bet.
were like, if it was innocent,
Yeah.
why did you try to delete? Well, I just happened upon this. I didn't know it was still doing this. So, and again, it was like, well, if you didn't think you were doing something bad,
Right. Why are
did
you trying
feel
to frantically?
Right. Right.
delete everything?
Yeah.
So, we did the Alford's plea. We had to do a victim impact statement, which
Oh.
was really hard. And I
I
asked my
bet.
girls, I'm like,
Yeah.
do you want to do this? They're like, no, Mom, like you're the voice for us. They're like, and again, not like props to me, but as a parent, you're protecting. And
Yeah.
they're like,
Yeah.
Mom, you have not even made this difficult for us.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
it was hard for them to understand why
Yeah.
somebody would do this.
Yeah.
My oldest will never have a clock in the bathroom ever, and my
Yeah, I bet.
youngest still has a hard time like not hiding in the shower to undress.
Mm.
Like it's
Yeah.
still like, "Ugh," and I had to tell them, I'm like, here's the reality of the world we live in today with cell phones and microscopic cameras.
Yep.
You just have to assume you're being recorded.
all the time.
I said, so I
But-
mean, otherwise you just live in fear, and that's not something we're supposed to do. Is live in fear, as
Right.
hard as it is.
Yeah. Which is just a horrible thing
It's
to
a-
have to think about
yeah.
all the time.
Yeah, I watched this one show. It was like I can't even. I'm trying to tell you which one it was, but I can't remember. But her husband put a little mini camera in the shower head,
Oh, yep.
and it was just looking down, and she had not one clue.
Yeah.
Because like you're not looking up at the shower head
No.
while
You
you're
can't
showering. You
see
would
'em.
never. And like you said, like they're so tiny, you don't even see them.
Yeah. And I'm like, why do you want to record me? Like, if I'm in a healthy relationship, psh,
Right.
Yeah.
you should
Yeah.
ask for big, like, dude,
Yeah.
like I didn't understand, like, what was the whole, and I can still say with all honesty, I don't think he was trying to watch my kids. I
Yeah.
don't think it had anything to do with my kids. I think his sickness is young minors, young bodies.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of, so
That
the,
was
the
all-
flash drives, I
Yeah.
made my ex-husband look at him. He's
Yeah.
like, dude, it is bad.
I was just
He's
gonna-
like, he's
yeah.
got a folder called redheads, brunettes,
oh my
blondes,
goodness.
Asians, like,
Wow.
and he had pictures and pictures and pictures. Pictures, he would be on Facebook screenshotting women pictures and then cropping them. Pictures on dating sites. So like pictures that you're putting out with your family, he would have to, my ex-boyfriend was even like, I know that you found these. He's like, let me try to explain it. I did have something. I said, you can't explain
No.
the psychotic things. I said, my ex-husband's like, you don't get to see these. And
Yeah.
I said, I don't want to, but
Yeah.
I just was trying to see if there was other pictures of the girls on there.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I want
And
it all deleted.
Yeah,
Like,
he had pictures of other schools that he was teaching at. There was one school that had a
Ugh.
pool, and there was pictures of all the girls in their swimsuits. And his reasoning was because this got brought up. There was some from baby mamas. She was trying to. His ex-wife was trying to get full custody. So their attorney found a lot of information about these other things that they gave to my attorney.
yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, he just was like, oh yeah, those pictures were for like a thing I was going to do with for the school or something. Just
Yeah.
bull, just complete lies. So the day of that's how the CPA got like to full circle it.
Yeah.
The attorney put me in connection with. They have great resources for people in every state, but it was for women to kind of help them through this and help
Yeah.
them through, and they're like, we're gonna have the CPA, but be okay knowing that we're not taking your kids away.
Yeah.
You removed the problem and you are a victim too.
Yep.
So that was very nice, but it was still hard to sit and be like, don't take my girls. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
please
Yeah.
don't. I'm not that bad of a, but that sinks into the mom guilt, right? Which
Right.
Absolutely.
is just, so then again, the judge
Yeah.
was like, Melissa's got I wrote 3 pages for my victim impact statement. And that was the first time I had seen this person in person.
Mm.
since
This was
the
in
day.
person.
So
Okay.
this part is in person. And he was, up at the front and I was in the back and his mom was there. And I'm like, how dare you support yours? Because I called her
Seriously.
too. And I'm like, this is what your son did.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she's like, I just can't believe it. I said, of course you can't believe it. You don't believe that kind of evil in your own child.
Right.
But he tried to be like, I was not shedding light on abuse, obviously, but he
Yeah.
was abused by his dad and hurt people, hurt people, hurt people.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
the cycle, right?
Yep.
And so he put himself into therapy before I even pressed charges. But for him, it wasn't to get healing.
Right.
It was to show that he was a good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This was a misunderstanding.
Yep.
Mhm.
It was an accident.
Yeah.
So the judge knew all of that.
Yeah.
So he introduced me and when you go to a court, I don't know if you've had to do much in court. I never did up until this point. Like my
Yeah.
divorce was like bada bing, bada boom, you're
Right.
done.
Yep.
But you're supposed to stand in front of a judge anytime you're speaking. And I was like this.
Yeah.
I like didn't even get out of the little gate to go in front. And I'm sobbing.
Yeah.
And the judge was so compassionate. And the fact that I had the same judge for 2.5 years is something that has not happened. That's how I know that it's God given.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He's like, Miss Smith, sit down. And he's just like, I know this is hard,
Yeah.
but to the best of your ability, try to speak. Because our typers try to
Right, yeah, yeah.
type everything.
The court
like,
reporter.
yeah.
Yep.
And so I'm like sobbing. And I just remember I said things like, I believed you.
Yeah.
I trusted you.
Yeah.
The fact that you can say this was an accident and I literally said, he is the smartest person when it comes to electronics. When anything is broken, he will fix it. He
Mhm.
does. And I said, I kept it on my my folders and stuff.
Yeah.
It's hard to remember exactly, but I
Yeah.
was sobbing and I was angry and I was hurt and I was broken and I just was like remember all I could do was like stare at the paper and I could see him on the side and I felt my mom's presence behind me because she was there with me and
Yeah.
everyone's like
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. Yeah.
and the judge gave this person a chance to say when you said sorry, remorse, right? He's like, do you have anything to say to this? and he was like trying to cry
Sure.
because they can cry. Narcissists, they
Yep.
can
Yeah.
turn it on
Turn
if
it
they
on.
need to. And he's like, I just, Melissa was the love of my life. And he said his extracurricular activity friend at school, if you remember, so the teacher,
Yep.
she had dropped a folder off at my house randomly. And it was a letter that she had written to this person saying, you lied to me. So she thought she was in this relationship. And that's a whole nother story. So anyways, he said, this person came to our house. It really scared Melissa. And all I wanted to do was protect her. That's all he said.
What?
Wow.
So, and I heard scoffing from like my attorney. He was just like, what?
Literally.
What?
What? I don't even get it.
I need
First of
protection
all-
in the bathroom?
Yeah.
What?
Makes
First
no
of all,
sense.
we have a front door camera.
Yeah.
We already
Right.
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
thanks.
So he
Wow,
never
that's so frustrating.
he never said, to my knowledge, I mean, he could have said something and he never took responsibility. That's
Yeah.
the hardest
Yeah.
in the healing,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Should I have went to therapy right away? I should have, but therapy is expensive. It's
Yeah.
really sad that it is.
It
It is
is.
really sad that it is.
We are blessed that our insurance pays for therapy because a lot of
Yeah.
insurances don't because it
Yeah.
is expensive.
It is.
Like,
Yeah.
not everybody can just like go to therapy. You're like, okay, you make it sound so
No,
easy.
Yeah.
I remember when we first started going to therapy like years ago, we were, luckily we had found somebody that had a sliding scale based on
Yeah.
income. And it was like, okay, we can afford it, but
Yeah.
maybe like
I
once
do
a
payment
month. Like,
plans.
yeah.
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 Exactly.
So I should have went, and I was like, no, me talking, I'm good. So
Can I ask
Yeah.
real quick? What was his sentence? Like, did he ever do
so
time?
he gave the judge is like, so he that's a great question because the judge was amazing. He's like, I reread your file, the whole thing before today. He's like, he said something like, you are disgusting.
Yeah.
Like,
you're a
he's like,
mess.
it's awful, the
Yeah.
things that you did. And he's like, you have zero remorse. He's like, I'm giving you max everything. Now, that's not anything cool because the state
Yeah.
of Minnesota does not recognize images of minors as pornography unless they're in sexual acts. So,
That's
What?
state of Minnesota,
Unbelievable.
fix your state of
State of Minnesota.
Watching
And I'm
this.
sure
Get
that
your shit together.
yeah, I'm sure
Seriously.
you're not. So even though everybody knew that the images that were taken were going to be for sexual use by
right.
him
Exactly.
or people on the dark web, because I don't know where they went,
Yep.
that he could go on with life.
Because they were standing.
They were
weren't in a
standing.
position
Yep.
that was technically
Sexual. They weren't doing sexual. Yeah. And I'm like, if you have a naked picture of a minor, bada bing,
Yeah,
bada boom,
yeah.
pedophile. Like, I don't get
It's
the
weird.
I like,
there
I
should
wanna
be no
know who was-
accidental.
Yeah. Who was
Yeah.
in the room when they decided to make this
Yeah.
law?
Probably a pedophile.
Yeah.
Seriously.
It's,
I'm not
It
kidding.
doesn't.
The whole board
It
of
does not matter if you have an image of a minor naked. That is.
In
Yeah.
the state
I mean,
of
like,
Minnesota.
okay.
Yeah.
If your kid, you're taking the cute little pictures of them in the tub when they are
right.
developed,
Yeah, totally
whatever,
different.
developed.
Totally different.
But
Yeah.
this was a developed 15-year young
Yeah.
woman,
Yeah.
and so come on,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's the state of Minnesota.
So
That's
he got
infuriating.
So he
his
got
max.
his max was 2 years probation. He could not have he could have a camera on his phone, but it had to be backed up by some kind of app or something to where they can monitor. That doesn't mean you can't get a burner phone. I know
Right.
for a
Right,
fact he was
exactly.
on dating apps still.
Yeah.
I know
Well,
for a
what
fact.
about- yeah. What about your computer? Is it all
Yeah,
of his
yeah,
electronics?
All of his electronics. But his person, what do they call it?
Yeah. I know what you're saying. Those people that come and check on you.
Yeah.
Is that like
Your
No,
probation officer
probation.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
was supposed to know. So if he was going to date anybody with female children,
That was the rule.
that was the rule. He
He has
had to
to tell them.
divulge.
And
So
he is
engaged to somebody
That
with
does not have
that does
female
not have
children.
a female children. And she sadly believes everything that he said. And I'm like, oh, girl,
Yeah.
just find me on the book of face or the
Yeah.
Insta. Like,
Serious.
and I would be more than happy to tell you everything because he's lying to you. And it's really sad because he's not changed. Something else happened in the state. Something to do with invasion of privacy. They changed the terms of what that means. It needs to be on a structure. The device has to be connected to the wall or to something, not just like recording. So I finally made it through 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And my attorney called me and it was on the golf course and she's like, hey, they're going to try to retract their plea. And I'm like, how can they do that? And they're like, they can because of this new thing. And she's like, I know you're a prayerful person. She said, you better have everybody praying for you.
Yeah.
Because she's like, if they take away this part of our case, nothing.
Wow.
So, long story short, the judge kind of just reamed him a new one. Is like, dude, he not only brought the device inside the house, he bought a shelf to put inside of the plug-in, so that becomes the structure of the home. So he had a shelf where this camera was, so he could get better angles. But so yeah, it just.
So he only got probation.
He got 2 years of probation, and he was supposed to do a month in jail. At that time, he was working for a certain company, and he asked for a lot of overtime. So he really only spent 13 days, if that, in jail.
Wow.
And
he cannot
teach
any longer teach, though.
But he had quit himself before because he knew.
Yeah.
It's all to make himself look good.
At least he can now not
work
at any other schools.
So then during his 2 years of probation, it was also he could not be in any form of authority over minors. He couldn't coach. He couldn't do anything at the churches. He couldn't do. So like that, when you go through something like that, you feel like, oh, maybe I'm better. Like there's still parts that is hard to talk about or relive.
Yeah.
And a newly empty nester. And when my youngest, this summer before her senior year, I'm like, oh my gosh, all I'm doing is crying. I got to get this under control. And that's when I was like, okay, cost or not, I'm going to go to therapy.
Yeah.
And I like puked all this stuff, like with my ex-husband, this ex and relationships prior, after this, you don't trust people. You just don't.
Yeah.
And that's where I learned about boundaries, how important. And I'm going to be honest. I mean, I'm just now dating somebody that I'm like, listen here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is my boundary. This is what I'm not going to do. This is what I am willing to do. And I am a mess. And if you can love me through this, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Right.
And he has.
Yeah.
But being a faithful person, I wanted to talk about the mom guilt and forgiveness. It's like,
especially when you don't get that apology.
You don't. But
and
even if I did.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Does it help?
No.
The healing? No.
Absolutely
it would have been
not.
half-ass.
Yeah.
So going through therapy, she did this little activity where you had to pick like different characters. Like she had a bunch of different like McDonald's toys and you had to pick those toys and you put them in the sandbox. The sandbox is your mind. Tell me the day. Tell me through the day. And I picked this and I picked a princess. I picked a phone because the phone was the biggest thing with the.
Yep.
And it's amazing how your mind can piece these puzzles. And that my princess was, I felt like I found my Prince Charming. You said that in the beginning.
Yeah.
And we got to who this person was. And I picked Darth Vader. Because in my heart, he's darkness.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is like
All
the epitome of evil in my life. And my therapist was like, do you realize that he was also a mind manipulator?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And I was like, that is crazy.
Yeah.
Goosebumps.
And she's like, all I kept doing was saying, I couldn't, like, I should have known. I should have kept them safe, my girls. I should have done this. And I still, years after, still have not forgiven myself. And that is like mom guilt.
Yeah.
Our goal is our purpose in life, which it's not supposed to be, but it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is to protect our children at whatever age and whatever cost.
Yeah.
So in my head, I'm like, I was pushing this person to be alone with them, to spend time with them, to get to know them, not knowing his intention was possibly to And I just thank God that nothing physical happened to
Yes.
them. And forgiving is my next thing that I'm really being drawn to.
Yeah.
You don't want to forgive somebody.
No.
You're not forgiving the actions that that person did, but to completely get freedom
Mm-hmm.
in yourself
Yeah.
is forgiveness.
Yeah.
And I went to a retreat yesterday, and I'm like, I'm going to say I forgive this person, but I don't feel it
Right.
in my
Right.
heart. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
But the first step is to give it. And again, whether you're faithful, whatever your beliefs are, you cannot have hatred and you cannot have these things eat at your soul, eat at your spirit. Like you
Yeah.
just can't. You can't. Like, so it was easy for me to be like, I don't hate this person anymore, because that gives them so much more control still.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yep.
If you harbor that unforgiveness, if you harbor that hatred,
And that also,
they're always with you.
Yeah. And it just like turns you also
Yeah.
into somebody not like
Yeah.
bitter
Yeah.
and angry.
And that's not how I am. Like
Yeah.
even after this, I dated a lot of other guys after and learned progress. But therapy is really where I understood like where the red flags that you asked if I saw in this individual, I didn't know about, because they don't teach you how to have healthy relationships. They
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
We don't teach about boundaries, what that really means. And I realized that in every relationship, including that one, I was yearning for something that I was missing. And
Yep.
it was missing in myself. You have to learn to love yourself
Yeah.
to receive love
Mhm.
from other people. And I think that loving yourself really protects you a little bit more, because you're not going to maybe jump into a situation that might not be the best for you, because that's what you're longing. I love that you're saying all these great things about me,
right.
because I don't believe them myself.
Mhm.
Right.
So I need to hear them from somebody else, right?
Yep.
So that's another thing that I learned through this course of therapy, and it's still a course, right?
Yeah.
And so anyways, I gave up my boundary. I
Yeah.
didn't even know what that was.
Yeah.
He was trying to get me like all this love and you're my, this and all of the things that I didn't have like the last 6 years of my marriage
Yeah.
before I got divorced. Like everything I thought I was missing, I thought I
Mhm.
found in him.
Yeah.
And narcissists just pull you slowly
Yeah.
out of your circle. And I'm the only child. I don't have family down here anyways. So the people that I had were just a few friends that
Yep.
and they just chalk it up to, oh, she's in a relationship.
Right.
But then that's when they get you, and then they start to make you think certain things are okay,
Yeah.
until you're like, wait a minute, at the park, being with a woman at a park, that
Yeah.
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
seem okay to me. But
Yeah.
like, it was the things that I learned after what a gaslighter was. And we had talked about what that means. And
Yeah.
they make you question. And that's what he
Your
did.
reality.
Question
That's
your
what they do.
reality.
Yeah.
They say, hey, I love you so much. How could you ever think that?
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, how could I ever think
Yeah.
that?
Yep.
You do. Up until this point, you've never shown me anything outside of that. And that's how they start to just,
right. It literally says gaslighting is a form of emotional abuse that involves manipulating someone into questioning their own reality. It involves repeated lying, denying facts, twisting someone's words and experiences against them. Gaslighting can happen gradually,
Yep.
and it can cause the victim to feel confused, anxious, isolated. It also makes it harder for the victim to trust their own perspective and leave the relationship.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
literally
to a T.
definition.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
and I, like I said, things don't happen bad. I don't believe bad things happen to people but I do believe that this person was let go of so many situations and was able to skate by,
Yeah.
that I feel like I had the strength of family and friends and my faith that I could be the one to at least stop him.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
maybe not from being an awful human,
Right.
but
Yeah.
that's what I'm supposed to be praying for, is that, and I'm like,
Whoops.
what is this? Why do we have to like forgive to that extent? Like,
I know.
whatever, but you gotta let go.
Yeah. I think you made a good point earlier, just talking about loving yourself,
Yeah.
doing it for yourself. I think
Yeah.
Yeah.
with the forgiveness piece as well, again, as hard as it is, especially in a situation like this, you're not forgiving him for him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
in letting him off the hook.
Yep.
It's forgiving him for yourself and for your own healing.
Yep. And
as
forgiving
hard as
us.
that is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that
Yep.
was the other piece. It's a two-way. You're forgiving the person that caused you that trauma, but you're also forgiving yourself
Yes.
because
You didn't know better.
you didn't
Yep.
know.
You didn't know.
And
Yep.
you feel the fool. In fact, back to the sandbox therapy, she's like, how do you, so my princess was that day. And then later on, it was the, who I thought I was Hamburglar. Do you remember Hamburglar?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that I felt a fool. I
Mm.
felt foolish
Mm.
that I should have known. And that is, like you said, the healing part is not only to give it up and give it to God, because it really is not our burden to carry,
Yeah.
Mhm.
but to just be able to fully heal. And I want to help people we learn from experiences, even if it's
Yep.
not our own, right?
Right.
Mhm.
And I just feel like, how can I share more if I'm still like so emotionally, I was surprised at the emotion that I felt yesterday and today, because I
Yeah.
can talk about it, but like we had talked, like you're just in it.
Yeah.
When you have to tell it like moment by moment, it's like reliving that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't want to be so emotionally attached to that past.
Mhm.
It's part of who I've become, because
right.
and that's our story. But a lot of people are like, well, that's my story. That's my story. But we're not living in that.
No.
Right.
That's not our story now.
Yep.
Now is our story. This
Yep.
is part of the pieces that got us to where we are.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so that's another thing that I feel like people that have went through traumas, you cling to that
Yeah.
because that was so big, but you got to let it go.
Yep.
It is.
And it's not easy.
Yeah.
Right. No.
Not when somebody like does something. I mean, trauma in general is really
Yeah.
hard to get over, but when
Yes.
somebody that you trusted and loved, and you're like, that's a big mind twist that you're
Yeah.
like, I don't even know like who I am, what I believe. Does anybody tell me the truth?
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I'm
you don't-
assuming you
oh,
were
Makes
yeah.
you
like,
question everything.
everything.
what's
Yeah.
real?
And I'm
Yeah.
still like, when are you going to dip? When are you going to show your true colors?
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
is your second family going to show up at my door?
Yeah.
Like, it's just,
And
it's hard.
and that takes God putting just incredible person
Yep.
or people that, whoever it is in your
Yeah.
life that are actually like, yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
The guy that I'm dating now, I'm like, I wasn't nice to you. I'm like, you're not coming to my house for 30 days. I'm not going to yours.
Yeah.
And I need my girl time. And I always give up this. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, what do you mean, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, stop calling me beautiful all the time. Like, I can't,
Yeah.
I can't take that good. I told him, I'm like, you've awoken something up in my heart, because I am a giver. I'm
Yeah.
like, that's my love language, is words of affirmation. I can't receive because I still don't believe that I do deserve it,
Yeah.
because I've only had trauma. Right.
Right.
So
Yeah.
he's just been like kind. And I'm like, don't call me beautiful all the time. But I'm like, but you have to still call me beautiful.
But
like,
yeah,
but
don't
Right.
actually
Yeah.
stop.
like say honey or something. And
Yeah.
he just was, I just told him the other day, I'm like, you're just so patient. Like,
Yeah.
how can I not? And I just said, all I can give you is day by day. Like,
Yeah.
that's, I think, all that we should all
Yeah.
Yep.
live the life that we have in the moment. And that's
Mhm.
hard to do sometimes, because we're people that look forward, look ahead. And I think
Right.
that us as women, we dream
Mhm.
about future.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so with like this person, I had a future plan with him.
Yeah.
I was dreaming. And so then when that's not your reality, that's really hard to take too, because it's like, well, I dreamt about marrying this person, and
Yeah.
this is where we were going to live.
Yeah.
And we come up with this mental deep down desire.
Mm-hmm.
So that's even worse, when that's like, whoa. It's not only not going to work out, but it's completely opposite of what you thought it was going to
Yeah.
be.
Like you literally movie in your head,
Yeah.
and it's like
Yeah.
Mhm.
this way.
Yeah. Just
You're
kidding.
like, what?
We went from a love story to like one of those weird Hallmark movies.
Yeah.
That go,
Yeah.
or no, the Lifetime movies is when that's the bad stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I started off Hallmark and then ended in Lifetime.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I'm like, this is not
You're like, what
I
the heck
signed up
happened?
for.
So what do you like? Is there any signs that you would share that you're like, if you have a relationship that you're, because I mean, I'm assuming there's people that are
Yeah.
listening or watching that are like, this sounds either. I would love to hear like, I don't know, like red flags, I guess, or things
Yeah,
that
looking
you
back on it.
Yeah.
now see and question.
I didn't have red flags with this person. I would just say trust your gut
Mhm.
Yeah.
and listen. Don't let somebody tell you what you should think about something, because that, looking back, he did that a lot.
Good point.
And your boundaries. If
Yeah.
you start to feel like somebody is lovingly even
Yeah.
having you not really allowing you to be with your family, your friends, wanting all of this time, that's a red flag. You don't think that is, but somebody wanting every part of your moments of your days to be with them,
Yeah.
that is a red flag. They're
Yeah.
trying to pull you away from your source, pull you away from somebody that could say, hey, do you know that this is happening
Yeah.
to you? So that's what he did to me. He didn't have to work very hard because I didn't have a lot of people in this area too,
Yeah.
which again, but just, your gut.
Yeah.
Like I knew sometimes things didn't seem right. Not to the extent by any means.
Right.
And don't be afraid to question it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
Stick with it.
you're stronger than what you think you are. Don't stay because you're afraid that you have to start over. Don't stay because you're like, I don't want to fail at this again. Because that's the thing, is you
Yeah.
think that you're failing and you're not. If something in your gut is telling you this doesn't seem right, go talk to somebody else.
Yeah.
Get their outside opinion. I wish I would have done that, but in my situation, it was too far down the line.
Yeah.
I didn't get those until,
Right.
a few months before he got let go and things like that. And like, forgive yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to say because I'm still learning that, but
Right.
Yep.
you got to learn to forgive yourself. You were a victim. You're not naive. Like all of the awful, awful things that we can say about ourselves when we go through stuff like this, you're not that person. You're a victim. And that's really hard to say that I'm a victim too, as
Mhm.
much as my kids were.
Yeah.
But I'm probably the biggest victim because I was the one that went through
Right.
the, not only it's emotional.
Yeah.
What did you say? Emotional,
Manipulation.
Abuse.
Mm.
Emotional abuse.
my therapist just said it's also psychological. It's
Yeah.
more psychological abuse with people like this because they're rewiring how you think and how you react.
Yep.
It's
Mhm.
not just them saying, "Oh, you're such a dumbass," but then I love you. That's emotional.
Right.
The
Yeah.
psychological is very difficult to unwind and
Yeah.
undo, but it's not undoable. Like
Right.
Not impossible.
it's
Yeah.
not impossible.
yeah.
Like hang on to whatever your beliefs are. Therapy is great. Mine is a payment plan option. I mean,
Yep.
if you
Yeah.
feel like you really have to dive in deeper, we can only heal ourselves with our faith and our friends and our people to a point, to a
Yes.
level.
Right.
And then after that, it really has to be more in depth and taking the pieces out and through therapy or through your faith or however that is. But
And I feel like therapists have such a good way of putting things that a perspective you weren't thinking.
yeah,
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
kind of just you even describing the sand thing. Like
yeah,
there's been so many like aha moments that Ethan and I have had from therapy that I'm like, I would have never thought that way
Yeah.
if we never went.
Yeah.
Like because they just are so trained so well in like, okay, but what about this? Like, what if it does work out?
yeah,
And you're so down this like, it's never going to work out. But
Yeah.
you're like, maybe. I mean, that's like a very simple.
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Well,
it's
even
just-
with all of that, like I have fears and
Yeah.
worries and like OCD tendencies that I didn't really have
Yeah.
up until this. ADHD tendencies that I maybe had a minute thing, but was accentuated because of this
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to do EMD therapy to hopefully
Yeah.
have my brain rewired back to
Yeah.
Yeah.
what it was post or pre-trauma.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how our body copes.
Yep.
And that's what it is. It's a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
So it's
It's,
don't give up.
yeah.
Yeah.
What a wild story. What do you
Yes.
feel like is the biggest thing besides like that you've learned like about this whole situation? Like narcissism, gaslighting, or do you feel like it's more like I've learned this about myself? Like I'm stronger than I thought I was. And I'm
Yeah, definitely stronger. Because I thought my divorce was bad and I was like, dude,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I took an alcoholic. Sadly, I'm not being funny about this, but I would have taken alcoholism over this
100%.
100%.
I would
Yeah.
imagine that's more, much more black and white.
Like, yeah, nope.
You have a problem, you're not fixing it.
And I go,
Yeah.
like this was so much more. It was hard that you, in a positive light,
Mhm.
Yeah.
you can't trust
Yeah.
everybody at face value.
Mhm.
You have to take the time, and that's something that I kind of learned about myself, that I am a empathetic person.
Yeah.
I will believe you. I'm a ride or die chick. That's not a good saying. Ride or die is not a good saying.
Listen, I am like that. And yes, if somebody tells me something, I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Like, I will straight up believe them.
Yeah. And it's not, we don't want to change who we are, but we have to try to learn and be, I have to try to learn and be a little bit more questionable
Yeah.
when things come up, because my world was so rocked, and
Right.
I was just, I did a podcast right after it happened. I told you guys,
Yeah.
I sometimes re-listen to it and I'm like, wow, she was super broken.
Yeah.
Like she was super in it. And there's even parts of that podcast that I'm like, I don't even remember saying that, because I was still in my mind was in protection mode still.
Yeah.
And then it's like, wow, by the grace of God,
Mm-hmm.
and it's crazy. It's a crazy part of my past that I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't believe that it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. One more question, then we're all good, I think. If you have had, or if you have a friend that's going through something similar, like, how would you show up for that friend? Like, how do you go about being like, hey, I think, just like narcissism, they're kind of trying to pull your friend away or whatever. It might not be as big and as dark as yours story, but that kind of vibe. Is there something that you wish somebody maybe would have said to you at the time that would help you?
That's a hard one, because
Yeah.
what they do is they pull.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, if you feel somebody is being pulled away by an individual that they're in a relationship with, just try and fight for them. The thing is if somebody would have been like, he's doing this, I'm going to be on the defense.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Right.
Even the woman that had, was being cheated on too, because she thought she was in a relationship. I later told her, I'm like, I'm sorry for reacting the way that you did when you brought this information to me, but you came at me with emotion, not facts.
Right.
And I think that unless you have facts about, like, hey, this person, I've seen them, cheating, and these are the dates and these are pictures of them, maybe then they can come out of the closet. Narcissism, it's a hard thing.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
depending on how long it's been, I would just say, show up with facts if you have them,
Okay.
and just don't let them go. I mean, they're going to
Mhm.
start to pull, but fight, and you can say,
Keep in contact.
Just be there.
know that you got to know that they're not going to believe you because they think that they're in love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But eventually something's going to trigger in them,
Yep.
and they just need to have someone to fall into.
Yes.
Yep.
That would be my ultimate goal.
Yeah.
Is if I had, like, to be that person, to be
Yep.
like,
Be
Well,
the
Yep.
be kind of the squeaky wheel, even if you're not believed
Exactly.
at the time, because
Yeah.
you will be the first person. If you're
Yep.
coming at it from a perspective of, I love you,
Yes.
I care about you, this is what I'm seeing, that when that does eventually happen, you're going to be
Yep.
the first person to come to.
Yep.
Mhm.
Most
And then you can embrace them and
Yep.
not have them go back. Because
right.
that's the thing. If you don't have that person, it's
Right.
very easy for them to come. Oh, no. It was
Yep.
just in your head. Oh,
Yep.
Yeah.
because it happens.
Mhm.
You get those moments, and if you don't, oh well, it's not that big of a deal. I don't think it's real.
Yeah.
I didn't have anybody that I felt like I needed to say it to, because at
Right.
that point, all my friends were kind of living their own lives, and I was so disconnected with them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for
Yes,
coming
thank you
on
for
Yes.
having me.
and sharing your story. We learned a lot, didn't we?
We did.
Oh my gosh.
Very eye-opening.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say, like, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
But, it's like, it is very healing, like, sharing and, helping just one person,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yep.
Even if it is just one. But who
Yep.
knows? This
Yep.
is like a big thing and sneaky.
And
So,
it happens all the time. You
Yeah.
hear about
Happens.
it, and
Yeah.
people don't know people, you feel ashamed, and
Yeah.
that's okay to have that feeling, but that's not where you shouldn't live with that.
Yeah.
Right.
And just hearing through it all, I just want to commend you on just how incredible of a hard situation and the way that you handled it and the way that you pressed into your faith,
Mm-hmm.
the way that you eventually decided, let's do therapy, let's work on myself, and good on you for just the amount of protection that you provided.
Yeah, you're an amazing
thank
mom.
you.
Yes,
Like,
you are.
You are an amazing mom.
Yes.
It's like you can just feel it,
Yep.
And the fact you know they just and your
They-
kids know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do, and that's he didn't steal everything.
Nope.
Nope.
He tried,
Yep, he did.
but he
Great
did
point.
not
Yep.
win.
Nope.
Yep.
So
He didn't.
you're the one who's winning at the end because you
Yep.
I know.
Yeah.
you got God, you got
Yep.
friends,
Yes.
and all the
Yes.
things.
All
So
the things. I appreciate you guys opening this because
Yeah.
it is a safe space, and
Yeah.
it's, your hope is that your struggles can help others
yeah.
feel better about themselves and what they're going through. So thank you for having.
Yes,
Absolutely.
of course. We will see you guys in our next one. Bye.
Later.
Bye.